think so.
No.
Okay. Hold on.
Between these two.
Yep. You said Irene. Is this the week and we missed it, or is it a different week just so I can make sure it's all?
It was supposed to, it is listed for next week.
Okay.
I'll send an email.
It's the newly
That you
waxed.
wanted to be,
Yes,
okay.
because we're going to be tied up.
Of course. No, that's not a problem. I just wanted to make sure if there was something, that like we missed it.
No, you
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. How's your Passover going?
Good.
Mm-hmm.
We had lunch, fun Passover. Granddaughter, and then my nephews too.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. That sounds great. It sounds great. Did you do the cooking or was it someone else? Yeah. Okay, nice. And then other folks brought the rest. That's perfect. Yeah. Excuse me, we did Goldman Seder the weekend before. Was here at TBS on Monday night. And then we drove up to Toronto with my second family for Tuesday. So it was a triple, it was the best. It was wonderful. We got to like hit all of the, all the family, the big family tour. And also we had like 180 people here. It was wild. Yeah, it was fantastic. So yeah, and it was, all three were like delicious and wonderful. And it was great. Yeah. Thank you.
Grandkids are home.
Uh-huh. Oh, nice. So it was kind of intimate and bigger experience. That's awesome. Very nice. Yeah, I guess so. But this is nice because we can gather in space.
Yes, no. And Howard. Oh, so close the door.
La door by door.
That's a Howard.
Yes.
Door the door.
Yes. That's good. Now we can start. We've made a pun. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and happy Passover. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful evening inside as we welcome Shabbat during this wonderful holiday of freedom and of empathy, acknowledging perhaps the brokenness in our world, but that hopefully through the wilderness is the promised land. There is that vision of wholeness and peace, and hopefully we can all continue to work towards that. Speaking of peace, we're going to open our service this evening with Shalom Aleichem in our tradition where we welcome angels, divine beings to Shabbat, and perhaps we're also welcoming each other during this sacred time. So let's sing together, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Baruch Hu. Roachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Baruni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Let's take a moment now that we have spiritually welcomed the angels. Now we can take a moment and welcome each other. So turn to someone near or nearby you. You can say Shabbat Shalom. If maybe there's someone new around, it's a great opportunity to meet us. We're this small but powerful group here this evening.
Hey, everybody.
We appreciate all of you being here. We'll now invite Hope and Light into our service here this evening for our candle lighting, and I'd like to invite Joel to join us to light our Shabbat candles, and we'll sing our blessing together. Thank you, Joel. As we've welcomed light into our space here, I'd like to continue with a reading called To Hold On to Hope Without Letting Go. This is by Oded Mazor, and he shared this poem in Hebrew. It's been translated, but he shared it at a protest rally in Israel on one of the Saturday nights. And of course, they continue to be in our hearts this Shabbat and every day. So if you would like, you are welcome to join me. This poem again is To Hold On to Hope Without Letting Go. For everything there is a season under heaven, a time for weeping and a time for laughing, a time for mourning and a time for dancing, a time for war and a time for peace. In those days when each time collapses into the next, we have no choice but to cry and to laugh with the same eyes, to mourn and to dance at the same time, and the long arc of history is compressed into one day and 1 hour. We ask for the strength to contain the intensity of our bursting hearts, to rejoice with those who are fortunate to embrace today, to enfold all of those withdrawing into their longing, their souls trembling, to hold on to hope without letting go, and to leave some quiet space for a silent scream. Please grant us the room to shatter into pieces, and the spirit to be rebuilt anew. Poignant words that perhaps reflect the mixed multitudes of feelings we may be having this Passover. With that, we'll continue with some joy that we so desperately need as we sing together, welcoming the Sabbath bride with Lecha Dodi. Oh, and the slides aren't working. That explains why you couldn't read along with me. Yeah, I'm gonna figure that out now. Okay. Thanks, friends. I did it. Great. And here we go. If you're able, please rise and we'll face the entrance.
Erev Shalom, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלק, לך אדוני, לקראת כלה, בני שבת, מקבלה, לך אדוני, לקראת כלה, בני שבת, מקבלה.
We'll remain standing as we continue with Chatzi Kaddish, transitioning into our next phase of our service. We're on page 26 in our prayer books or on our slides.
יגדל ויקדש שמך,
Amen.
ועמד דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בך יחויו ומכון ופייל בית ישראל, עגלה ועגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך ועולם עולם מעלמיה יתברך. ישתבח וישתבח יפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קודשה בריחו לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה דמיין ועלמה אמרו
Amen. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. And we'll continue with this reading, Teach Me, which you can find on page 27. Please join me, now that the slides actually match. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We'll continue on page 30 with Ma'ariv Aravim in appreciation of creation. It's the bringing on of evening technically, and maybe we're grateful that the evening is getting longer, days are getting longer, our days are getting warmer, so we can add that into our gratitude perhaps for Ma'ariv Aravim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. We'll continue in the English. You are the creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, ha-ma'ariv aravim. If you're able, we'll ask you to rise once again for Shema, our prayer of oneness in all living things.
Shem Gevod,
may be seated. We'll continue with Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkiru va'asitem net kol mitzvotai mitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Our upcoming prayer, Micha Mocha, we always sing anticipating Passover, that moment when the Israelites are passing through the Sea of Reeds and exultation and joy of their freedom. And now here we are in Passover, perhaps feeling the joy of that freedom, but perhaps some other things too that we will talk about later. This prayer may be familiar, this reading, because we sing it during the High Holy Days. And I feel like we really are standing on parted shores of history in this moment. So feel free to read along with me as we head into our Micha Mocha this Passover and Shabbat evening. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it's eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, and that winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together, singing Micha Mocha. Micha Mocha, ba'elim Adonai. Micha Mocha, ledar b'kodesh. Even in this time of freedom, as many of us reunited with family, friends, and loved ones and sat down together for our Seder meal, we also could not forget the emptiness for 133 families whose tables had an empty seat, as their loved ones remained captive, enslaved in the darkness by Hamas. This week, you may have seen the Goldberg Poland family saw and heard their son Hirsch for the first time in over 200 days. In a video that was released by Hamas. And the relief and horror they must have felt in that moment must have been just unimaginable. So with them and for all of the families and most of all for the hostages, this Passover, as we say now more than ever, let my people go, I'd like to invite you to join me in this prayer for the redemption of the hostages. May they come home soon. Please join with me. Our God, the one who raised Joseph up from the pit, be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. Send complete rescue and full redemption to all those held captive by the enemy. Strengthen their spirit and bring them our prayers that they be protected from all harm. And plant understanding in the heart of the enemy that they may return the captives in wholeness of body and spirit. Grant wisdom to the Israel Defense Forces that they may secure freedom for the captives without loss of life. Grant strength of spirit and courage of heart to all the sons and daughters of Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar to release bonds of captivity and allow us all to live in freedom. They shall call upon me, and I will answer them. I will be with them in distress. I will rescue them and honor them. Amen. We'll continue praying for them and for all who may be in need of a Sukkot Shalom, of a shelter of peace and wholeness. I know all of us can probably feel some use for that right now, and our Jewish students on campus across the country especially too. So we'll sing Hashkivenu for that shelter and that protection. We'll continue with the Amidah with our standing prayers, beginning with Adonai Sifatai. I'd like to invite you, if you are able, to please rise. Adonai
Sifatai tiftachu fia ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Me'iri Geula Livnei Bneihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Malachim, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol HaTorah Le'Hoshia, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayei Hakol Be'Rachamim Rabim, Somek Noflim V'Rofei Cholim,
Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, lichamocha ba'al gevurot, umidam elach, melech nemit umekayem, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'emanatah lechayot hakol.
Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukedoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated, and we'll take a few moments of silent prayer, using the words in our prayer books, pages 54 to 60 if you like, or whatever may be in your heart this evening.
Shalom imrama, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Shalom, shalom imrama, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'akol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Happy Passover. This week, after our amazing Seder at TBS on Monday night, that I know quite a few of you joined us for, Michael and I traveled to Toronto to spend second night Seder with my family. Somehow we made it in time, despite the drive. It was a wonderful reunion, and we also got to meet two new baby cousins who were born in the last 2 months, and I got to hold them both. It was great. Not at the same time, but it was great. The Seder was beautiful in its organized chaos, folks going back and forth into the kitchen, the increasing smells of matzo ball soup and brisket, while kids played with frog toys on the table. Michael also played with frog toys on the table. We were all singing in different keys, side conversations, babies crying, all of it. To me, one of the most magical and powerful moments of the Seder is the breaking of the matzah. It's a dramatic moment that always held my attention as a kid, and the same held true for all the kids around the table when my uncle held the matzah up high for all to see and broke the middle matzah. Usually, it's an even-ish split, but this time, the matzah broke differently, in more of a triangle shape. As he held up the other piece, we all remarked that it looked a little bit like a heart. This oddly shaped matzah became the afikomen, which led to even more beautiful chaos that spread to the rest of the house later in the evening. The heart-shaped matzah. There is something about the vulnerable, cracked, and rough edges of broken matzah, the bread of our affliction, that resonate even more with us this year which is so different from all other years. More relevant, perhaps, and less symbolic. This year, we are broken, we are bitter, we are oppressed. As we gathered at our Seders this year and reunited with loved ones, as I mentioned earlier, we know that for thousands of families, there are empty chairs. A first Seder without loved ones who were murdered on October 7th or killed in the following months of the war. and for over 100 families, empty chairs for loved ones who remain in the darkness of Gaza and their conditions still unknown for more than 200 days. And we have been watching with horror as universities are overrun with hate-filled protests and encampments on campuses that are supposed to be centers of education and learning and safety. Now, let me be clear, perhaps some protesters were there with real concerns about the Israeli government and policies, about Hamas's savagery, and the welfare of innocent Palestinians, all of which is understandable and fair. But the safety and self-determination of innocent Palestinians cannot and will not be achieved through anti-Semitism and anti-Jew hate, by assaulting and intimidating Jewish students, by barring Jews from entering buildings or crossing their campuses in scenes reminiscent of campuses in 1930s Germany, where they did the same thing, by waving flags in support of terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, who harm Palestinians themselves and call for the death of America, by calling for intifada, shouting their approval of Hamas and to burn Tel Aviv to the ground, and other horrible statements towards Jewish students that, frankly, I don't want to repeat from the Bima. Jewish students all over the country are unable to safely exist on their college campuses, to safely be visibly Jewish. The inaction from university leaders towards violence and protest infractions, and from the nation at large, is overwhelming. The silence truly is deafening. But at the same time, we've also seen courage and bravery in the face of this overwhelming hate by our next generation of Jewish leaders. Last week, OSU student and one of our religious school teachers at TBS, Ethan Dobres, was interviewed on the local news about Hillel and anti-Semitism and the protests on campus. I hugely admire and respect that Ethan chose to be even more front-facing, even more publicly Jewish on a local and communal level when there is so much hate on campus. On social media, I saw students on USC's campus blowing a shofar and waving Israeli flags to say, "We won't be silent or cower in fear." Times of Israel reported that a student at Northwestern chose to walk through campus with a kippah on, despite not usually wearing one, so his Orthodox friends wouldn't feel alone. On UCLA's campus, a student held an Israeli flag as a professor shouted at him. The student calmly explained the terms she was misusing and said that he was there to show his Jewish peers to not be afraid. There's a teaching in Hasidic tradition that says, nothing is more whole than a broken heart. Perhaps many of us have felt this during a loss or another difficult time. There may be a part of us that wants to only harden our hearts, to turn away and isolate ourselves. But when we are at our most tender and our most broken, we also have the power to open ourselves up to compassion, vulnerability, connection, and ultimately to strength. We read in Psalm 118, Min hametzar karatiya, from the narrow place I cried out to God, Anani b'merchavya, and God answered me with expansiveness. The narrow place, hametzar, is also connected to the word Mitzrayim, or Egypt. Jewish students on campus are showing us that what the wholeness of a broken heart can look like. By and large, they are not responding to this hate and violence with more hate and violence. They are not hardening their hearts like Pharaoh, denying people's humanity here or across the globe. Instead, they choose solidarity, they choose compassion, and they choose strength in their convictions and who they are. Many modern seders now include a cup of Miriam filled with water. Our tradition recalls that Miriam the prophetess led the women in dancing with timbrels through the sea of reeds. Even in the scramble of the exodus of leaving Egypt, Miriam told the women, "Bring timbrels," because she knew that moment of rejoicing and freedom would come. And our tradition also imagines that in the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, Miriam could summon a magical well whose water sustained and nourished the people, no matter how difficult things became. So this Shabbat, this Passover, this 200 and some odd days of this terrible war, may we find wholeness in the brokenness of our hearts. May we ask, what can be softened? What can be made malleable? What tears need to be shed still? And what empathy can we still extend? How can we continue to nourish and maybe even transform ourselves and each other during what may feel like unending wilderness? And may we still carry the hope of rejoicing in freedom and peace. May we recall we still have those timbrels yet. May we all continue to be agents in bringing that time near. And then we can really see Dayenu. That will be enough. Finally, we are planning ways to continue supporting our college students and families over the summer. So if you yourself are a college student or a recent graduate, or if you are a parent or guardian or family member of a college student, and if you need additional support during this time, or if you have an idea of how we can support you and your family, please be in touch with me and Rabbi Benji. We want to be here and support you in any way that we can on behalf of all of us at TBS. So with that, Shabbat Shalom. And we're going to continue. Sometimes it's difficult to find a transition to the prayer for healing, but here perhaps not so much. In our brokenness, we recall, just like we carry those timbrels, the power of rejoicing, we also carry this immense capacity to help in the journey for those in need of healing. Just by reaching out, by letting someone know that you are thinking of them, that has tremendous capacity to lighten one's spirits, to let them know that they are part of a community that cares for them, and that can mean so much. So we are, of course, sending our love and healing and hope out to many in the world who are in need, and also our TBS community is thinking of Asher Benaya Ben Harav Gavriela David Eli, Jonathan Adler, Nancy Ashley, Lori Barr, Sarah Bates, Margie Block, John Bratta, Ann Clark, Keith Clark, Bruce Cohen, Mia Cooley, Ella Dubrow, Michael Lee Ellard, Sam Edelman, Carrie Eschler, Marilyn Friedman, Hannah Golan, Alan Goldberg, Yossi Golden, Carolyn Goldmark, Jessica Heffley, Karen Carlsberger, Beth Jasolowitz, Dan Lang, Minna Melton, Phyllis Miles, Lisa Pena, Jeremy Phelan, Ian Phillips, Rashi Pristowski, Stanley Radin, Jessica Rathkopf, Willow Rohrbaugh, Steve Rubenstein, Rolf Sauer, Ozzy Zimmer, and Shelley Zimmerman, as well as any other names that you might like to share for healing this evening. Any names? Well, for each of them and for all in need of healing, we'll sing together, Misha Berach.
So
We'll begin concluding our service now with Aleinu L'Shabeach, which you can find on page 282 or on our screens. And I invite you again, if you are able, to please rise. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, L'Tekidu L'Yotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kagoye Haratzot, Velo Samanu Kamishbachot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vigor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Ve'anachnu Korim, Umishtachavim Umodim, Lifnei Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Vayom Hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. As we move towards Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, we're also perhaps thinking of those whom we miss, who are no longer around our Passover Seder tables. We take a moment and think of them, and we say, Zichronam Livracha, may their memories continue to always be for a blessing. We're also thinking of those whom we have lost within the last 30 days and are observing Shloshim. We remember Stephen Charles Levy and Marilyn Foskel. We recall those two whom we've lost at this season in years past and are observing Yartzeit. We remember Yeti Brilson, Rita Cannon, Claire Chait, Jack Hooperman, Betty Eichelberger, Nachum Feinstein, Rabbi Morley Feinstein, Edward Michael Fuller, Leonard Holstein, Irene Klaben, Lillian Cantor, Ruth Kleiman, Nancy Loik, Ruth Melman, Sandra Oberman, Stanley Oberman, Stephen Rosenthal, Eva Salon, Meyer Schultz, Ada Slavin, Faye Snyder-Levison, and James Zolliger. If you'd like to share any names or any corrections of names I may have mispronounced, you're welcome to do so at this time. For them, for all whom we are missing, and for those who have no one left to say Kaddish for them, we'll recite together page 294. Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'alam u'almei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to Israel, to all who mourn. And let us say together, amen. You may be seated. I'm happy to invite up Becca for some exciting upcoming announcements.
The announcements are exciting.
They are exciting.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us inside when it's so beautiful outside. We're so happy to have you with us. Please come back next week for our family-friendly First Friday service featuring second grade Gesher, the presentation of the annual Torah Ora Award, and a delicious dinner from Aladdin's, generously sponsored by Joanne and Steve Grossman. Please be sure to RSVP on Shul Cloud. The dinner is free. We just need to make sure we have an accurate count. Next week, the night before, so Thursday, we're going back in time. On May 2nd, we are having our family-friendly game night. Not to tempt you too much, there will be pizza, chametz pizza, so please come. Yep, Passover will be over. And then next, don't miss, we're just about a week away. A week from tomorrow is our 2024 gala as we celebrate Jewish life and culture. We'll have a performance by stand-up comedian Al Lubell, a spread of some delicious food to nosh on, and celebrate everything we love about being Jewish in America. General admission tickets and sponsorship opportunities are still available on our website. As always, please visit ShulCloud or check your latest weekly window for more information. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Let's do a quick Kiddush and Motzi, and then we'll have our closing song. Finally. Yes, very exciting. Okay, who would like to join me? Not till your B'nai Mitzvah, but it'll be sooner than you think. Anyone enjoy Manischewitz and or want to have first dibs on matzah? Anyone? 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 Okay, it'll be me this time. No takers. That's all right. You've maybe already had your 4 cups of wine for 2 seders. That's fine. But please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. Yep. Now, if anyone wants first dibs on some challah, that is not challah, that is matzah. Challah that's not challah for Passover. Maybe some of us prefer this during the year? No? Okay. Whole wheat. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. If you're not sick of matzah yet, you're welcome to come up and grab some. And we will embody Miriam with our closing song. As I come back over here, we embody Miriam and Debbie Friedman and that hope of rejoicing in freedom with Miriam's song. Please join us. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long.
When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land.
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long.
And
Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice and song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Passover. That concludes our service. Please join us for some Passover-friendly nosh downstairs.
bride to